Welcome everybody to our webinar. So my name is Leela Gill. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at xiQ. We are talking today about building trusted relationships using first-party intent data. xiQ offers an award-winning proprietary platform for sales and marketing teams, featuring personality-driven insights for the buying team and about the buying team, and helping you accelerate your sales efforts to win deals faster. So with me today is Usman Sheikh, our CEO and founder. Usman, prior to founding xiQ, Usman served in several vice president roles at SAP with global responsibility, including product management, sales enablement, and digital commerce. He's been a guest speaker at a large number of universities, including the University of Texas, Wisconsin, Alabama, Louisiana State, and Clemson, and he's a graduate of the University of Michigan. So we would like to welcome you, Usman. Thank you so much for being here today. Hey,
great to be here, Leela. Thank you very much.
All right, so we're packing in a lot in this 30-minute webinar. We're going to talk about what is first-party intent data and why it matters. And then we're going to show you how you can individualize every interaction with every buyer using first-party intent data. We're going to jump right into about 3 slides and then 3 or 4 slides, and then we're going to go into a short little demo, and we'll wrap it up with questions at the end. So let's kick this off, Usman. Tell us about what is first-party intent data, first of all.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, today our focus is talking about intent data, and I'd like to set the record straight in terms of what xiQ believes to be first-party intent data, and it's actually quite a simple definition. What we say is that first party, meaning it's coming from the source. It's an identifiable source. It's an individual or a company. And this is exactly what they're talking about. There's no conjecture involved. There's no extrapolation of search results, for example, and reversing those back into ITs and making suggestions that these could be potential companies and these could be cohorts within companies. The difference between that and what we refer to as first-party intent data is that it's coming from the source, and it's an identifiable, it's not an anonymous source, it's a known source, a person or a company. And today, as you know, one of the major premise of the xiQ platform is that we analyze all this unstructured data that's out there on the internet, and we make business sense that helps sellers sell better and faster. So we see first-party intent data as playing a very critical role, because these are essentially the individual word clouds, if you may, or the key taglines that people are putting out there in the public domain, and our engine is able to analyze that and help sellers at least get directed to specific trends and topics that are of interest to the individual they're going to be selling to.
Absolutely. So thank you for that definition, about really making sure that it's data that we know the person is interested in based on the digital breadcrumbs that they're leaving out on the internet. So let's talk about how individuals are different from groups for a moment, and this will come back together in a couple of slides when we talk about why it's so important to understand the individual intent data versus a group or a company intent data. Yeah. So let's talk about buyer groups first.
Absolutely. So if we look at the fact that we've been inching as B2B sellers and marketeers, we've been inching towards precision selling, getting closer to prospective buyers. So there's been a lot of focus on personalization in the past and trying to understand the persona that could be a buyer. And there were some generalization and stereotypical mistakes that were being made as a result of that. You cannot take a CFO and basically blanket cover all CFOs as the same kind of people and individuals having the same preferences. That's not true. So understanding what is of interest and the personality and the key drivers of an individual are very important. And intent data is essentially an encapsulation of exactly that, is what are people talking about? What are they thinking about? What are topics of interest to them? And so understanding the individual is very essential to building that one-to-one trusted relationship in B2B sales. However, we are now in the area of B2B selling, and the decision is not a one-person decision. It's a multiple-person decision. Gartner says as many as 6 to 10 people are involved. Our personal experience is that there's quite a few people that are involved. So the question now starts getting to how, and we call these groups of people that are actually assigned by companies to go help them procure solutions as buyer groups. These are the individuals. They are at different stages of the buying journey. Some appear at the earlier stage when they're discovering. These are people who would be, chartered with go and figure out how do we drive operational improvement? How do we drive revenue growth? The second group would be those that would be, I have to live with this technology. Does it work in my life? Does it work in my day-to-day? And the third would be those people that would be designed as decision makers, buyers, and finally, making the call on that. So knowing who these people are is very, very critical to a B2B seller and a sales organization. But then understanding what their personality types is, what their behavioral models are about, gets to be even more important, because that's what helps you understand how you can potentially navigate this buyer group. Taylor, if you don't mind just clicking to the next slide, please. And so there, what we're talking about is that when we are going into a company and there's multiple decision makers that are in making the decisions in that company, there are going to be people that are going to act more as your supporters, as your allies. And we would classify those as doers. Behavioral science, the models that xiQ is using, is helping us understand at the individual level how people make decisions. And that behavioral model also signifies if that person would be a potential, and I underscore the word potential, supporter or a doer for you. Or could this be somebody that's a coach, somebody that can guide you, but will not necessarily take a stance one way or the other saying, I really support this solution or I don't support this solution. And those people that could be potential blockers, these are the people that will question a lot of things. They will question the need for the solution. Why, what is the solution? And they will have a lot of questions that could potentially block. And you take that, and Leela, we start multiplying that 6 to 10 times, because there's now 6 to 10 decision makers, and each one of them will fall into that category. So understanding, what is quote unquote the lay of the land in the buyer group, and being able to see that these people would be potentially my supporters, let's work with them. And more importantly, these people that could be potential blockers, and what's our strategy going to be towards them. And we'll show that to you in our demo in a second or two.
Mm-hmm. And I think the point about first party intent is each of these people have different keywords that they're interested in, or different topics that they're interested in. And what we've been traditionally doing in marketing and in sales is sort of grouping everybody based on persona and saying, okay, all of you are CFOs, you must all care about the same thing. And I think the definition of personalization has been very limited in the past. It's, put a first name, a company, throw a couple of different kinds of images associated with the industry. What we're talking about here, I think, Usman, is getting to preferences like personality and how do they operate, and then understanding those dynamics in the larger setting of a buyer group is super important, especially for salespeople trying to move a deal through the pipeline faster. So this concept, I know for me, is very, very innovative and new, and I think it's really important. And we've seen those results with our customers using our personality insights and the ability to segment or understand the groupings within the buyer group, and the doers, coaches, and blockers. So this is really interesting. I think we have one more slide or two more slides.
Actually, if you go back to that, I just want to address what you were saying over there. It's really, really important. It's probably the third time we're going to say it, but I think it's worth mentioning that we cannot treat all people as one entity. The outcomes are wrong, right? You can't, as you said, the CFO cannot be, all CFOs are not the same.
Right.
So you have to have these individualized strategies. And the challenge today is that you don't need to you need to convince more than one person. You need to convince a group of people, right? So how do you build those individualized strategies for that? Let's move forward now, Taylor. And this is where our research, xiQ's research, comes in extremely handy. So what we've seen is that when we take a look at intent data, even if it's first party intent data, and let me again reiterate what that means, that this is data that's coming out from the company and its executive. These are what they're talking about themselves. And so we're not conjecturing what they're looking for or what they're searching, but this is exactly what they're talking about. And when we take a look at that data or the concepts that they're talking about, as you can see in the chart on the left-hand side, which says company intent data, it is significantly different when we do the same thing at an individual level. So meaning that when we apply picking up the breadcrumbs at an individual level that works at company Secure Eye on the left side, fictitious company Secure Eye on the left side, this person has considerably different set of criteria and interests than what would be showing up at a company level. And this is a very, very important distinction to be made, because this is, again, that same broad brush stroke mistake that was being made, which was every CMO, every CFO, every male CFO, every female CFO, every female white, and so it just keeps going down, because that's really how you're building that, demographic based persona, right? And we've now moved into the realm of individualization, where the psychology of the individual, individual starts counting in. And this chart and this particular slide shows us that when you look at a cohort or a group of people as suggested by the chart that says company intent data on the left-hand side, the outcomes are very different from one of the people that actually works at that same company, right? And so if I were to take company intent data and start targeting individual the same way using those key terms and topics, I'd absolutely miss the mark, right? So first party intent data helps us match. Now think about this a little bit further. If it can help us identify what to start talking to a person about and how to talk to them, it can also help us find them when we have those topics to talk about. So in xiQ, one of the things we do is called dynamic audience matching. So we take first party intent data at the individual level and we map it to the first party of data coming out of a campaign, right? And based on that, we try to find audiences that will be optimally receptive to that content, right? So your content engagement rate goes up. So this is very important criteria that we can now analyze your list at a microscopic level and sort it in an order that will be most receptive to the content that you're sending out to them, to the marketing campaign you're sending out, right? And that, Leela, as you very well know, translates into sales qualified leads, right?
Yes, it's
That's
very powerful, very powerful. Yeah. And, we really are layering on top of the persona and the account base. This is what's taking it to the next level. And we always talk about precision selling, and that what we're offering now is the next generation of precision selling. So let's talk about personality. Let's give everybody the definition real quick about personality-driven sales and marketing on the next slide, and then we'll jump into the demo.
Yeah, so up to now, what we've spoken about is picking up the digital breadcrumbs and bringing them as taglines for people, the trends and topics. There's another use of those breadcrumbs. You can use those breadcrumbs. Another thing that xiQ has done, actually the main thing that xiQ has done is it's mapped those breadcrumbs back to behaviorals, using behavioral science methods. It's mapped that back to behavioral science-based recommendations on how to engage and sell those people, right? So personality-driven sales and marketing is the ability to identify at that individual level at scale, not at one by one, but at scale, and be able to give that message in a very singular, individualized manner. And we call that personality-driven selling. So again, going back to your analogy, not all CFOs are the same. make that unique distinction, and you'll have a much better chance of success with them. So let's go and show you if you don't. I think that's what we want to show you.
Yes,
right?
let's do it. Yep.
So I'm accompanied over here with Taylor Carden. She's our account executive and an expert at showing xiQ. So Taylor, let's jump across.
So here's xiQ Live in my browser version. And here we have an overview of all my key accounts that I've been following over time, my sales triggers, which is that key news on those key accounts. But I want to search Ryan Whitehead from Coinbase. So in the top navigation bar, I'll do first name, last name, and company. And what that does is looks at any corner of the internet, any of those publicly available data points on Ryan, and gives me Ryan Whitehead's xiQ insights, a profile of who he is and what he does, intent data, which is the trending topics for Ryan on an individual level, and then access to his social media. So I'm no longer going out to those different sites to gain the information that I need on a particular prospect. So this is intent data that Usman was talking about, and this is really important because these are the conversation topics I could use to communicate with Ryan, having never met him before.
Yeah.
Scrolling up.
I can pick it up from here. So again, so the idea over here, what Taylor was showing us was how we can actually put these, the personality comes out. Another interpretation of how the breadcrumbs that these individuals have left have come and told us, presented their personality. And there in intent data, we see those are the key topics those individuals are talking about. So that's one way that xiQ uses publicly available information and intent data to help you understand who your prospective buyers are. But not only do we leave them here in an app, xiQ, we have also taken this and brought it out into Microsoft Outlook, which is where most of the sales makers, most of the individuals are operating. So here, what we're showing you is an add-in from xiQ, which is on the right-hand side. And it's got a list of people that I'm sending out emails to. And if I wanted to craft an email to a particular individual, I can click into them and I can immediately receive some email and instructions. So here, Taylor wants to be creating an email from me. And she sees that there's some instructions over here in terms of how best to engage with me. And immediately it brings the value of the research we have done, the engine has done, the prediction calls we have done, it brings it to you so you can use it to empathize better, to build that relationship better, to understand how to communicate to that individual better. So again, a very practical application, Leela, if you may, of bringing these very unique personality insights right into an actionable situation where you can actually use them to craft better emails, have better communication with your clients and prospects. So as I said, one is to understand a single person, but in xiQ, we can actually add these people up into what are buyer groups. And here's an example of how an account executive is tracking a particular client, and they're adding people that are key decision makers, people that are they're coming across as they go through their buyer's journey or their sales journey. As they keep surfacing up, they keep adding them into xiQ. And what xiQ does, again, using those behavioral science models, it starts putting these individuals into areas where they would most likely be. So these individuals on the left side, which says doers, are most likely, doesn't mean always is the case, but most likely going to be people that are going to support you. They like to get things done. Their personalities are such that they prefer to get things done. The second group are those people, we come across them in every account, that will tell you a lot of things, but they won't take sides. And knowing that group is also important, and how you create a strategy for them is super important. And then lastly, those people that could potentially be threats to the deal, and knowing who those are is also important. So right here, what you see is in a very, very easy, quick way, the salesperson has been able to build up an account plan, an account map, which shows the different stakeholders, and it even places them in areas of potential friend, neutral, or threats, right? And helps you. Now, that's also very important, but what it also does is it takes their social media posts, and it brings them into one view. So now, instead of me going and searching the entire internet or LinkedIn or Twitter, I am in one location, and for those 10 or 11 people that I want to track, all their posts are coming over here. So I have a unique view into exactly what the people that I'm interested in are saying within that company. And just reading through this or using this information is super important and essential because it allows us to build that personal understanding. Now, another thing, Leela, that xiQ does, it allows us to post back onto social media, right? So we can go and find, if we go into our alerts section over here, for example, we can find these really, really great set of articles that are coming around companies I'm tracking, for example, or people that I may be tracking. And I can find one of those and I can post it. I can hashtag it, I can post it on LinkedIn, and I can start to rise above the cream and get myself heard and be noticed in front of my prospective clients, right? So again, intent data helps me find the right people, helps me put them into areas that could be supportive. And then let's go into seeing one of the individuals. You can click into one of these people. There we go. And you can see the intent data over there, right?
Yeah.
So these are topics, if I were to talk about with Ryan, these are key topics I would interject in my conversations or in my emails. I know how to approach him, whether I should be very direct or concise. Yeah, and then, the third thing we were talking about is how group or company views are different from individuals. So let's go and show you in the xiQ analytics platform. We have a view. So this is part of our analytics dashboard. And here we've been running marketing campaigns targeting a particular company. And what the engine has done is it has brought out a list of people and how they have engaged with xiQ's marketing campaigns. But what it's also done is it's gone based on what how those people have been engaging. It has also pulled out key concepts. If you can zoom in, please, on those key concepts that are trending within that account, right? These are the key topics that at an account level are meaningful to the company. At a company level, these are the topics that are meaningful, right? So just if everybody wants to take a visual imprint of that, that's a good idea, because what you'll see and what this experiment will prove is that when you go down to the individual level, these concepts vary. And again, you could be using the entirely wrong way of an approach of meeting an individual. And as a matter of fact, Leela, I discovered something reading the Challenger book the other day, which was that if you mishandle individualization, if you generalize individualization, there's a 20% less likelihood of getting the deal. So it's a fine. Individualize has a 40, if you do it right, has a 40% upward impact. But if you do it wrong, has a 20% downward impact, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me just, we're getting a lot of questions, Usman, so, which is exciting. And I just want to tell people, if you're interested in learning more, please book a meeting with us. You can go to our website, xiqinc.com, and schedule some time with us. We will try to answer some of these questions. I think we have about 5 more minutes in the session here. But I just wanted to highlight how I think, people are asking, some questions are coming in about how we're different from what, ABM platforms are out there today. And really, what we're bringing into the market is a whole new category. We're not saying persona-based marketing is dead. What we're saying is, to get B2B marketing has changed. B2B selling has changed, especially, everybody knows this. In the last 2 years, it's been dramatically changed with the ability not to lose insight, or, meeting people face to face and having to do everything over the internet. But the tools and the tech stack hasn't changed at all. What we're introducing is kind of a revolutionary way of really, as Usman has said, individualizing your communication, and the results speak for themselves. We're seeing dramatic increases in engagement and closed deals won with our current customers. So I think, Usman, let's wrap this up with a couple of slides. And then if we have a few extra minutes, I think we're running really close to the end of the time. So maybe we can take one or two more questions here.
Yeah, I just want the audience to, envision this world, right? Where you now have an abundance of information on people. It's sorted out in a manner that's really helpful. Through personality insights, how to engage them, what their behavior is, what their motivations are, what drives them, what makes them tick. You have this unique window into the mindset of your buyers, ability to place them into buying groups, and then see who could be potential friend, foe, neutral. Super important to buyers, to sellers. It really helps you optimize and plan correctly. Realizing that you cannot take that same broad brushstroke across. What you're getting about companies is not true at the individual level. And xiQ giving you the capability, it gives you what it is hearing from the first-hand individual. That's a huge differentiation, folks. We're not giving you anonymous. You load up your list, and for people that have public data out there, a lot of us do today, billions of people, xiQ will be able to pull in their first party, what they're talking about, intent data. And you use that to drive individualization at scale. And lastly, as a platform, it's about the customer engagement lifecycle. It's not about sales. It's not about marketing. It's about earning the trust of your customers. And therefore, it's about engaging them throughout their lifecycle, from discovery to post-discovery to successful solution optimization, right?
Absolutely. So we have a couple of questions, Usman, about the AI and how the AI, the algorithms, how does that work? Maybe we can end. We have 1 minute left, actually. So I'd love to, we'll follow up with all of you that are asking questions. We'll schedule some time with you right after this session. I want to make a quick announcement. We do have our next webinar scheduled in 2 weeks about smart source content, which is really going into this idea of finding the right content for the right audience. And I think I want to encourage everybody to sign up for that because it's going to be really interesting. We'd love to have if you want to learn right away more about what we're doing, please book a meeting with us. And we're happy to get on a call this week or next week and go into a deeper dive so you can really look at the platform and all of its capabilities. We really just touched the tip of the iceberg here today. Thank you, everybody, again, for your time today. And for those of you that asked a lot of questions, we'll be following up right after this call and circling back to meet with you. So thank you again. Have a great day and a great weekend.